Imagine just for a second that you have a small, perfectly sunny garden, right? It's quiet, it's happy, and honestly, it just makes you smile every single day. Now imagine a giant towering corporation comes along, buys your perfect little garden, and decides to turn it into a massive paved amusement park. What happens to the flowers? Well, let's dive into this because today we're looking at the absolutely fascinating story of plants versus zombies. So how exactly did a simple game about planting sunflowers to defend your lawn turn into a billion-dollar corporate battle? We are going to break the whole thing down today in this explainer. But before we dig into the dirt, if you enjoy these kinds of focused, visual deep dives, please take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really helps us grow our own little garden here. All right, Chapter 1, The Perfect Little Garden. Okay, so let's rewind to 2009. A game designer named George Fan, along with a really quirky team at a studio called PopCap, built a game with some brilliantly straightforward logic. I mean, think about it like a kid would. Why plants? Well, because they are literally stuck in the ground. They can't run away, which automatically forces you to be strategic. And why zombies? Because they are wonderfully, predictably slow. In a strategy game where you need time to think, having an enemy that just slowly grinds towards you is just absolutely perfect. The original game was built a lot like a neighborhood lemonade stand. You know, the rules were just fair. You play on one single screen, no confusing zooming or scrolling all over the place. It used simple lock and key rules. Basically, if there's a zombie driving an ice resurfacer, there is a specific spiky plant you use to pop its tires. Simple. You paid for the game once, and it was yours forever. The team even spent a whole extra year doing nothing but polishing it, just to make sure it was as fun and joyful as possible. Which brings us to Chapter 2, The Giant Company Takes Over. So by 2011, this little lemonade stand of a game was a massive, runaway hit. And of course, that caught the eye of a giant gaming supermarket called Electronic Arts, or EA. So EA made an acquisition. And to put that simply, think of it like a big, strict neighborhood association buying your private backyard treehouse. They own it now, and that means they get to change the rules of who gets to play in it and exactly how much it costs to climb up the ladder. And guys, they paid a staggering amount for this treehouse. $750 million in cash and stock. Let that sink in. EA paid this massive amount upfront because they didn't just want a game. They wanted a franchise. They wanted a brand they could sell over and over and over again. But as you can probably guess, that huge price tag changed literally everything about how the garden was going to be managed moving forward. Now, part of this deal included what business folks call earn-out incentives. Imagine your parents offering you a massive bonus allowance, but only on the condition that you sell an impossible, mountain-sized amount of lemonade. To hit those kind of massive financial goals, PopCap's leadership suddenly had to shift their entire focus. It wasn't really about just making a fun game anymore. It was about squeezing every possible penny out of the garden. Let's look at Chapter 3, Paying for Your Plants. Around this time, the mobile gaming world was rapidly changing, right? Everything was shifting toward a free-to-play model. When Plants vs. Zombies 2 was in development, these new corporate rules completely changed how the garden grew, primarily through something called microtransactions. Imagine going to a public playground that is totally free to enter, but you have to pull out $1 every single time you want to go down the slide. In the game, it meant using real cash to buy things. We're talking paying $20 just to unlock a handful of your favorite classic plants. Well, not everyone was on board with this new rulebook. George Fan, the original creator, actually ended up leaving the company. Now, neutrally speaking, there are a couple of sides to this story out there. Some folks say he was fired specifically because he pushed back against the new money model, while others claim he was just caught up in a larger company-wide layoff. But Fan himself went on record to say, "It is true I was laid off, and also true that I was against making PvZ2 a freemium game." So the really crucial takeaway here is the stark contrast between these two eras. In the first game, you pay once, you play the game, and you naturally unlock all the plants through your own hard work and strategy. In the sequel, sure, the game is free to download, but you are constantly being asked to pony up real money for classic plants like the snow pea or the jalapeno. And honestly, it almost went even further. During development, corporate executives actually pitched the idea of renting plants. No way, right? Imagine paying real, actual money just to use a virtual plant for a few hours before it literally expires and disappears from your game. The original developers were absolutely horrified by this because they knew it would completely unravel the fun, strategic fabric of the game they had worked so hard to build. Moving into Chapter 4, Shooters and Canceled Dreams. Because of that $750 million price tag we talked about, EA needed the franchise to grow rapidly out of the garden and into some wild new directions. So they branched out. They made Garden Warfare 1 and 2, which, to be fair, were actually incredibly fun, highly polished 3D shooter games that the fans absolutely loved. They made a digital card game called PvZ Heroes, but then things started to slip. They rushed out a game called Battle for Neighborville with basically zero marketing, and it failed pretty quickly. And then there was Project Hot Tub. It really is wild how fast this all happened. From the magical launch of the original game in 2009 to the massive buyout in 2011, and then the complete shift to microtransactions by 2013. By 2017, the studio was trying to make something truly special again with Project Hot Tub. But as you'll see, the harsh corporate reality stepped right in. Project Hot Tub was meant to be this beautiful, emotional family adventure game. The concept was that you would play as a teenage boy who teams up with a pea shooter to travel through time and save his sister. It was a true passion project. But despite the team actually hitting all their internal goals, EA canceled it. Why? Because they decided they needed those developers to go work on a Star Wars game over at a different studio. And to make it even sadder, that Star Wars game also ended up getting canceled. It just goes to show how quickly corporate resource shifting can crush a really, really cool dream. Finally, Chapter 5, Where Did the Magic Go? So after canceled projects, rushed releases, and just a really heavy focus on monetization, the garden started to look a little overgrown and neglected. The state of the franchise today is, well, it's complicated. The original creators are mostly gone. A lot of the art and development for recent projects has actually been outsourced to other countries to save money. And the highly anticipated Plants vs. Zombies 3? It has been stuck in testing in corporate reboots for literally years. But there is a silver lining here. Passionate fans are out there right now making their own incredibly creative modifications or mods to the original games. They are the ones actually keeping the true magic of that perfect little garden alive. So, looking at this whole journey, it leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question. Can a game be truly fun if its main goal from the very start is just to make money? I'm gonna let you decide that one. Thank you so much for watching this explainer. If you found this breakdown helpful and you learned something new today, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more structured learning. See you next time.